Hey everybody, it's Thursday. It means it's time for your Thursday thought. My thought for you this week has to do with sewer lines, and so we can call this video the sewer line saga. 3 out of my last 4 transactions all had sewer line issues, and then my wife and I bought a house in Ohio where I'm from. We flipped it, but we also had some sewer line issues there. So we'll run through them all real fast and have the takeaways. Number 1, I had some sellers who had lived in the house only a few years, selling their house, and the buyers did a sewer scope, and there was a section of the line where there was waste inside the sewer line. And so they asked us to clean it. Upon cleaning it, we found out that they're cleaning it and rescoping it. We found out there was a section of line that was essentially flat and even had a negative grade, so prevented the waste from getting all the way to the sewer. So good news, bad news. Good news is that my sellers never had a backup in their house, which is good because their house was still higher than the sewer line. So where their section was flat, as waste would come down, it would of course push at the other end, a tube, putting it into the sewer line. So they never had a backup in their house. Now it cost my sellers a lot of money to fix that problem for the new buyers. And the takeaway from this for you is just because you don't have an issue inside of your house, i.e. a backup, it doesn't mean that you don't have sewer issues. So if you are going to do a pre-listing inspection, if you're going to sell a house, it may be beneficial to go ahead and have that line scoped just so you know without any doubt that your sewer line is in good shape before you put your home on the market. Second deal, basically just an old house, an old sewer line. It was an old clay pipe, and there were many breaks in it, many root intrusions, and there were some places that it just could not be repaired and essentially needed to be replaced. The negative thing is that it went out to a back alley, and they had to go under a wall and break up the concrete in the back alley to get to it. So it was kind of an expensive repair, but overall, I think it turned out well. Again, the seller through escrow paid to have that done. So my buyer got a new sewer line in the process, and they replaced it. Of course, anything today is PVC. So pardon me. The next one, this one's only slightly different. It's actually kind of interesting because this home had been, I had buyers again. This home had been remodeled, and so there were actually 2 different waste lines coming out of the house, and then they connected and had one single input into the sewer line. It was just interesting that the home had 2 different clean outs and 2 different exit points for the sewer line leaving the house. And so what ended up happening, this was kind of a complicated scenario, but when we had the inspector there, we actually inspected one of the lines because there was one clean out. Now most homes don't have two lines coming out of the house or 2 cleanouts, and so the sewer line inspector really didn't catch that there was another line coming out of the house. We actually caught that on our own, and good thing we did, because when we had that second line inspected, while the majority of it was PVC, where it went under the patio, they connected under the concrete, and there was a section of concrete, from the PVC to the house that was concrete, underneath the concrete patio that was busted up and broken, and again, unfortunately, when the waste would leave the house, it would run past this concrete section before hitting the newer PVC, and ultimately, when it hit that broken up concrete, there was some waste that was lost into the ground there underneath the concrete patio. So the unfortunate part there is it had busted up a really nice decorative concrete patio, and then repair that sewer line, attach the PVC directly to the house, and then re-pour that concrete pad. Again, the seller takes care of it. Typically in these sewer scenarios, the seller is kind of on the hook to take care of them, and so even in a crazy seller's market like this, it's something the seller really usually takes care of. So anyway, those are my 3 recent client sewer stories. So big takeaway is always do a sewer line inspection. Well worth it. Don't assume that because you don't have a backup, you don't have a sewer line issue. That's another kind of takeaway from it. And then there are multiple ways you can handle it. Either it can be done before you close, or it can be handled post-closing via an escrow to the excavator and contractor and plumber. So now for our home in Ohio, kind of a similar deal, but we repaired this one in a very interesting way. We bought the house, we found out that a section of the line was kind of broken up. It was an old clay pipe in an older home, again in Ohio, and but the home had been replumbed and the home had PVC, but then it went to the cast iron and then to the clay. And what ended up happening is we shot this liner through the first about 35 feet of the sewer line, and what they do is they cover this liner in an epoxy and they put a balloon in it and they blow the balloon up to mold the epoxied liner to the pipe that's already there. So they may take a 4-inch clay or cast iron pipe, and it might be like a 3 3/4 inch PVC is what it essentially is. It becomes a hard plastic epoxy pipe that lines that, and so it's very cost effective versus excavating or tearing up the concrete floor in a basement and then redoing all of that concrete. It's a good repair situation. It can't be done in every situation. If the pipe is too broken or it's misaligned or it's too misformed, it's not a great solution. But in our case, we were able to basically line that section of sewer line, the main drain of the house, with that liner, and that's how we solved our problem. It's never cheap. It's always several $1,000s. If there's concrete work or sidewalks or streets you have to go through, it's even more money. But sewer lines can be expensive. There's a lot of labor involved in digging them up and replacing them and making sure that they have the right slope. Because the poop rolls downhill is a true statement. That's how most waste gets to a sewer line, is via gravity, and so you got to make sure that thing is flat and straight down. There can always be root intrusions. Heavy traffic over top of a sewer line can cause clay and things to break. Flat or negative grade on a sewer line could be an issue. And so there's just lots of things. Simply could be plugged and need to be cleaned. And so there's lots of things that can happen on that sewer line. So super critical thing to get checked out when you're buying a home. And if you're selling a home, it may be a good idea to get a kind of a pre-listing inspection done and scope that line to make sure there's no problems. All right, guys, that's it. That's my sewer line saga, my Thursday Thought video for you. Sorry I went a little long. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week on next week's Thursday Thought. Bye.